Dust drifted from the top as the wood bowed inward, then outward. No, Michael muttered, his stomach twisting. He took one step toward the window, but when he looked outside, the world was gone again. There was no street, no neighbors, just that same black void stretching forever, and in the distance, faint swinging lights that pulsed like rotten stars. The closet door burst open. A hand reached out first, skeletal, pale with too many joints. Its fingers curled around the doorframe. Then the rest followed. A woman's body, emaciated, her nightgown torn, her hair hanging in clumps. Her mouth was the worst, stretched ear to ear, stuffed with rows of teeth that clicked like clock gears. Michael recognized her instantly from the faded Polaroid he'd found earlier. Mrs. Carter. The children dropped to their knees, bowing their heads, their glass and bone teeth clattering in reverence. The woman stepped fully into the room, towering though her bones should not have held her upright. She fixed Michael with hollow eyes that seemed to sink deeper and deeper, as though they tunneled into the void beyond. Her voice came low, gravelly, and wrong. You freed her, Jar. You carry her hunger now. Michael shook his head violently, clutching his flashlight like a weapon. No, I didn't want this. I just wanted the story. Mrs. Carter's mouth twisted into a smile, teeth clicking. She leaned close enough that he could smell her breath, sweet, metallic, and rancid all at once. Stories feed her too. Names feed her. You've given both. The walls groaned around them. The carvings of his name began to glow faintly, like embers. The sound of knocking, steady, deliberate, rose from beneath the floorboards. Knock, knock, knock. The children began to chant softly, swaying as though in prayer. Feed her, feed her, feed her. Michael snapped. He swung his flashlight hard at Mrs. Carter's head. The plastic cracked against her temple, but she didn't flinch. Instead, her mouth opened wider, wider still, until the flesh at the corners split. Teeth clicked as if applauding him. Desperate, he grabbed the brass key from his pocket. If this house wants me, he shouted, then take me to her. No more tricks. The children froze. Mrs. Carter's head tilted, her neck bending until it almost snapped. For the first time, silence fell, as if the house itself was listening. The floor shuddered. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, falling like dead skin. The knocking beneath the boards turned to pounding, violent and impatient. Mrs. Carter whispered, her voice like broken glass dragging across stone. Then follow us. Down where the teeth grow. The children rose, each taking one of his arms with icy hands. He tried to resist, but his body was weak, drained. They pulled him out of the bedroom, down the hallway. The house seemed to stretch, the corridor elongating with each step. The walls were bleeding names now, dripping red letters that pulsed faintly in the dark. At the far end of the hall, a door he had never seen before stood waiting. It was taller than any other in the house, carved from black wood, its surface etched with symbols like those in the basement. The children stopped before it. Mrs. Carter stood behind them, her mouth stretched wide in anticipation. Michael stared at the door, his heart hammering so hard it felt like it might burst. He knew what was behind it, the real door, the place where down truly was. And as the children pushed it open, a wave of stench rolled out, earth, rot, and the sharp tang of iron. From below, something enormous shifted. The sound was unmistakable, teeth grinding together in the dark. The real door. The black door groaned open, its hinges shrieking like tortured metal. A wave of damp air rushed out, carrying with it the suffocating scent of soil turned by graves, iron sharp as blood, and the sweetness of rotting fruit. Michael gagged, but the children tugged harder on his arms, pulling him forward. Below the threshold lay a staircase unlike the others. It was made of bone, long, curved bones stacked neatly into steps, their surfaces polished smooth, slick with something dark that glistened under his weak flashlight. Each time his foot touched one, he swore he could feel it vibrate, as if the stairs themselves were alive. The children whispered together, their hollow voices weaving into one. Down where the teeth grow, down where the teeth grow. Michael resisted, but the brass key in his hand grew unbearably hot, burning his palm. He tried to drop it, but his fingers wouldn't obey. His fist clenched tighter against his will. The house wanted him to keep it. As he descended, the sound of grinding grew louder. Not just one pair of teeth now, but thousands, overlapping, chewing in rhythm, like a monstrous feast hidden below. The light dimmed with every step, until it seemed the beam itself was being swallowed. Finally, the stairway ended in a vast chamber. The ceiling was too high to see, swallowed in blackness. The walls pulsed faintly, slick with moisture breathing in and out like lungs. And in the center of the floor lay a pit. Michael's stomach twisted at the sight. The pit wasn't empty. Its edges were lined with teeth, enormous, jagged molars and canines, protruding from the earth like stalagmites. The pit chewed slowly, opening and closing, as though the ground itself were a mouth waiting to be fed. The children let go of him, stepping back to join Mrs. Carter, who watched with her mouth full of teeth clicking in delight. She raised her hands as though presenting an altar. Michael's voice shook. What is that?" The Carter boy tilted his head. "Her mouth. The place we all go. The place we all feed." The girl smiled, glassy shards glinting. "It's bigger now. Because of you." Michael's chest constricted. His thoughts scrambled for reason, for escape. But when he turned, the staircase was gone. Behind him stretched only endless walls, slick and breathing. The house had sealed him in. The pit moaned, a sound so deep it rattled his bones. From between its teeth, black saliva oozed and hissed as it hit the floor. Something moved inside, something vast, shifting, too large to see in one glance. And then he heard it, a voice, ancient, layered, so deep it felt like it rose from under the earth itself. "You opened the way, Michael Harris." His legs buckled. The pit knew his name. "You freed what was bound. You fed me with your fear. Now you'll feed me more." Teeth around the pit clattered together in rhythm. The children swayed side to side, chanting, "Feed her, feed her, feed her." Mrs. Carter stepped forward, her gaping jaw stretching unnaturally wide, pointing toward him with a trembling finger. "He is hers. Take him, take him." Michael screamed, backing away, but the floor beneath him rippled like flesh, pulling him toward the pit. He clawed at the slick ground, nails tearing, the brass key burning hotter in his hand. His camera bag slid into the pit first, crunching between the enormous teeth before vanishing into darkness. The pit moaned again. The voice rose louder, almost gleeful. "One more step, and you are mine." Michael closed his eyes, desperation filling every corner of him. He thought of the notebook he had read, the Carter father's final words, "Don't follow the bells. Don't feed her. Name no names." He realized with a jolt that every time he had spoken, every time he had shouted his own name, he had been feeding her. Every scream, every desperate cry had been another morsel. The key in his fist pulsed once, twice, then flared with searing heat. Instinct took over. He raised it high and jammed it deep into the fleshy floor beneath him. The house shrieked. The chamber convulsed violently, teeth snapping shut in chaos. The children wailed, their forms flickering like smoke, collapsing into themselves. Mrs. Carter shrieked, clutching her face as rows of stolen teeth spilled from her mouth like hailstones. The pit howled, its grinding maw snapping wildly, furious and starving. The voice roared, shaking the chamber. "You cannot starve me. You cannot close what is open." Michael yanked the key out. The floor split open beneath him. Light, not darkness, pouring through the cracks. It burned white-hot, blinding pure. The house roared one final time as he fell into it, tumbling through light, his ears ringing, his body weightless. And then silence. Through the light, Michael's body slammed on his solid ground, knocking the air from his lungs. For a moment he lay sprawled, gasping, waiting for teeth to close around him, for whispers to crawl into his ears again. But there was only silence. He blinked against the brightness. Slowly, his eyes adjusted. He was lying in the middle of a wide field. The sky above him was pale gray, washed out, and too still. No clouds moved, no wind stirred the tall, brittle grass. He staggered to his feet, his legs trembling. Behind him, the house on Willow Street stood exactly as it had the day he first arrived. Leaning porch, black windows, sagging roofline. It looked almost harmless now, just another ruin left to rot. But something was wrong. The street was gone. There were no other houses, no maples, no sidewalks. Just the house and the fields stretching in all directions, endless and empty. Michael turned in a slow circle, panic twisting his gut. "This isn't real," he whispered. His voice echoed far too loudly, as though the field were hollow. A faint sound rose on the wind, though there was no wind. The jingling of bells. No, not bells. The clink of glass. Teeth against teeth. Michael clutched his head, staggering. The sound was everywhere at once. He looked down, and his heart stopped. The grass wasn't grass at all. Thin, white stalks covered the ground, thousands of them poking up like weeds. Each one was a tooth, small and jagged, rooted in the soil as if planted there. When he stepped, they crunched under his boots, and he realized with horror that they were growing taller, inching upward, stretching toward him. "No," he muttered. "No, no, no." He turned to run, but the field stretched on endlessly. The house behind him seemed farther away now, its silhouette shrinking in the distance, even though he hadn't moved more than a few yards. The jingling grew louder. The teeth beneath his boots rattled, knocking against one another. Then, from the horizon, he saw them, figures moving through the field. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Their outlines jagged, their heads tilted at unnatural angles. As they drew closer, Michael saw what they were. People, or what was left of them. Men, women, and children, their faces pale and hollow. Their mouths were stuffed with teeth, so many that they spilled from their lips, tumbling into the field to plant new stalks. Their eyes were black, their movements jerky, yet purposeful. They were the taken. All those who had come before him. They shuffled toward him in unison, their teeth clicking like cicadas in summer. Their voices rose, a single chant that rolled across the field. "Feed her, feed her, feed her." Michael stumbled back, but the stalks of teeth tangled around his boots, snagging like roots. He fell hard, scraping his palms, the brass key still clutched in one hand. It pulsed weakly, its glow fading. One of the figures broke away from the crowd and came closer. A man in a tattered flannel shirt, his face slack, his mouth leaking teeth with every step. Michael recognized him instantly, from the old newspaper clippings in the library. Thomas Carter. The man crouched in front of him, teeth spilling onto Michael's chest. His voice was a guttural whisper, layered with pain and devotion. "You freed her. You brought us back. Now we bring you down." The crowd surged closer, their hollow eyes fixed on him. The ground trembled beneath the weight of their chant. The house loomed behind them again, larger now, its black windows glowing faintly, as though eyes had opened inside. Michael's chest heaved. His choices narrowed like the teeth closing in on him. Run into the field of taken, or step back into the house's waiting maw. Either way, the house was not done with him. The choice that wasn't his. Michael staggered to his feet, breath tearing in and out of him as if his lungs had turned to glass. The taken closed in, their pale faces slack but their jaws alive, clattering, grinding, spitting teeth into the soil with every step. The field rippled with the sound, an ocean of bone and enamel growing higher, surrounding him like stalks of corn. Behind him, the house on Willow Street loomed closer, though he hadn't moved. Its windows glowed faintly now, not with light, but with the glimmer of wet eyes. The front door swung open without a sound, its darkness yawning, waiting. Michael clutched the brass key, slick with sweat. It had cooled now, no longer burning, but it pulsed faintly like a dying heartbeat. He raised it above his head, shouting into the empty sky. "Is this what you wanted?" His voice echoed unnaturally, bouncing back twisted deeper. "Wanted, wanted, wanted." The taken halted as though commanded. Their clicking teeth fell silent. The only sound was the hiss of the grass teeth swaying in the still air. Thomas Carter, the one who had murdered his family, stepped forward. His empty eyes met Michael's, and for an instant, there was something human in them. Not pity, but recognition. You don't get to choose, Carter rasped, teeth tumbling from his mouth with every word. The house chose for you. It always chooses. Michael's hand trembled. He looked back at the house. The doorway glowed faintly now, a pale green hue leaking from within. It reminded him of the jars, of the basement, of the pit that had whispered his name. His mind screamed to run into the field, to vanish among the taken. But his body, his very bones, pulled toward the house. Every step he took away from it was agony, as though invisible strings tied him to its foundation. The Carter children appeared in the doorway, pale, grinning, their mouths full of shards and glass. They stretched their arms wide, as if welcoming him home. Michael screamed. He turned from the house and charged into the field. Teeth crunched under his boots, sharp stalks slicing through denim and skin. The Taken surged around him, arms outstretched, their jaws open wide, teeth spilling like rain, clattering into the soil, sprouting new stalks instantly. Hands grabbed him, cold, strong, unyielding. He swung the brass key wildly, striking one of the Taken in the temple. The figure dissolved into smoke, its body collapsing into a pile of teeth that sprouted like weeds. The key worked. Desperation burned in him. He swung again and again, every strike reducing another Taken to heaps of enamel and bone. But for every one that fell, 3 more rose, crawling from the soil, birthed by the endless hunger of the field. Through the chaos, he heard her voice, low, ancient, echoing not from the pit, but from the very air. The house moves with you, Michael Harris. There is no outside. There is no escape. He turned, and his heart stopped. The house was no longer behind him. It was in front of him again, its black silhouette towering, its porch yawning like a mouth. No matter how far he ran, it was always there. The Carter boy stepped onto the porch, tilting his head. His hollow eyes locked on Michael. His voice was small, but it carried across the field like thunder. Downstairs is waiting. Michael fell to his knees, teeth sprouting around him, the Taken closing in. The brass key pulsed harder in his hand, almost vibrating now, as though it wanted to be turned. But turned where? The field? The door? His own chest? Michael raised it high, and the Taken froze. For the first time, silence fell. The house leaned forward, its wood groaning like bones breaking, its door glowing wider. And then the voice came again, this time from everywhere, from the teeth underfoot, from the Taken, from the house itself. Unlock yourself, Michael. Feed her what she really wants. Unlock yourself. Michael knelt in the endless field of teeth, chest heaving, sweat pouring down his face. The Taken circled closer, their mouths overflowing with loose enamel, their black eyes fixed on him like carrion birds. The brass key pulsed harder in his hand, every throb syncing with his heartbeat, faster and faster, until it felt like the key itself was alive. The voice boomed again, ancient and hungry. Unlock yourself, Michael. Feed her what she really wants. He stared at the key, the metal shimmering faintly, its jagged teeth glistening as though wet. His trembling fingers grazed his chest. Was that what it meant? Did it want him to drive the key into his own heart? No, Michael whispered, shaking his head. No, I won't. The Carter children stepped off the porch of the ever-present house. Their pale forms glided across the field without moving their feet, eyes hollow, smiles splitting their faces. They lifted their arms toward him as if inviting him closer. The boy's voice echoed with cold certainty. You already belong to her. The lock is inside you. The Taken surged forward, hundreds of them, their clicking teeth rising into a deafening chorus. Michael raised the key high, desperate. It pulsed brighter now, almost blinding. He thought of all the names he had spoken in the house, all the words he had fed her. He thought of the Polaroid, of Carter's notebook, name no names. His grip tightened. Maybe the lock wasn't his chest. Maybe it was his voice. His throat burned as he shouted into the empty field. I am not yours. The Taken froze mid-step. Their jaws slammed shut in unison, the sound like a single gunshot. The teeth underfoot stopped rattling. The air grew still. For a moment, Hope flared in Michael's chest. Then the house groaned, louder than ever, its timbers stretching as though it were breathing. The porch warped, the roof sagged, and the doorway yawned wider, glowing green like a wound. The Carter woman, Mrs. Carter herself, stepped out, her body jerking as if pulled by strings. Her mouth stretched impossibly wide, stuffed with rows of clattering teeth. She spoke in a voice that was hers and not hers. Words feed her too. Every word you speak, every scream you give, is another meal. You cannot starve her. You never could. Michael's stomach dropped. His defiance had only made her stronger. The brass key seared his hand now, burning hot. He screamed, dropping it. But instead of falling into the teeth stalks, it hung in midair, spinning slowly, glowing brighter. The taken dropped to their knees, bowing toward it, their mouths gaping in reverence. The key spun faster, and then, with a deafening crack, it split open. Not like metal, but like bone. From its hollow center poured a black, oily smoke that slithered upward, twisting, taking shape. The field went utterly silent. Even the teeth stopped their clinking. The smoke solidified into something tall, thin, and eyeless. Its head bent low, mouth opening, revealing endless rows of jagged teeth. The sound of grinding filled the air. The Carter woman and children knelt before it. The taken pressed their foreheads into the soil. And Michael understood. The key had never been meant for him to use. It had been meant to release her. The shadow's voice filled the sky, vibrating through his bones. Now you are unlocked, Michael Harris. Now you are mine. The ground split. Teeth erupted from the earth in towering rows, surrounding him like a cage. The house behind them dissolved into the void, its form melting away until only the shadow remained, larger now, stretching across the horizon. Michael tried to run, but the teeth cage closed. He tried to scream, but the air turned solid in his throat. He was trapped. The shadow leaned closer, its breath rancid, its teeth glistening. Its voice slithered directly into his skull. All you can give me now is silence. And the world went dark. The silence. Darkness wrapped itself around Michael like a burial shroud. He couldn't tell if his eyes were open or shut. There was no difference. No air. No sound. Just silence so thick it pressed against his skull like stone. For a long time, he thought he was dead. His body floated weightless, his limbs numb, his chest locked tight. He tried to scream, but nothing left his throat. The shadow's last words echoed inside his skull. All you can give me now is silence. And then, faintly, he heard it breathing. Not his. Something else. Slow, steady, ragged. It circled him in the dark, a predator pacing unseen. The silence cracked, and whispers slipped through the cracks. Dozens of voices, all overlapping, murmuring his name. Michael Harris. Michael Harris. Michael Harris. He thrashed, reaching for something, anything. His hands brushed wood. Cold, splintered close. He realized he was lying inside a box. Coffin-sized. The air was thin. He pressed upward, nails scraping raw, but the lid didn't move. Panic surged. He pounded with his fists, screaming now, but the screams were soundless. The silence had swallowed them. His throat tore, but nothing carried. Then with a soft creak, the lid shifted on its own. Pale green light seeped in through the cracks, bathing his face. The whispers grew louder, more eager. He shoved, and the wood splintered, breaking apart like paper. Michael sat up, gasping. He wasn't in the field anymore. He wasn't in the house either. He was in a basement. Not the same one. This one was clean, almost sterile. Bare concrete walls. Fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead. A single steel chair sat in the middle of the room. On the chair, an old tape recorder. His legs shook as he stood. The silence wasn't complete now. The hum of the lights buzzed faintly in his ears. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Almost. He approached the recorder. Its red light was already on. Click. It began to play. His own voice crackled out, ragged and terrified. My name is Michael Harris. I came to 1467 Willow Street, and I never left. Michael's blood went cold. He slammed his hands over the machine, trying to shut it off, but the buttons wouldn't budge. His recorded voice continued. The house isn't just on Willow Street. It's everywhere. It follows you. Once you hear the teeth, you can't unhear them. Once you speak your name, it knows you. And now it knows me. The tape hissed, then another sound layered in. A deep grinding of teeth, faint but unmistakable. Michael staggered back. His heel struck glass. He looked down. Jars. Dozens of them. Rows lining the basement floor, their lids rattling faintly. Inside each jar floated teeth, clinking against the glass as if straining to escape. The whispers rose again, this time from the jars. His name, over and over, until it drowned the hum of the lights. The tape recorder clicked off. Then, in the silence that followed, a child's voice spoke right behind him, so close he felt the breath on his ear. We told you, silence is all you have left. Michael spun around. The lights flickered, and the basement door creaked open, revealing a staircase leading up. The same staircase from Willow Street. He realized, with a terror deeper than anything before, that he had never left the house at all. The staircase that shouldn't exist. Michael's chest burned as he stared at the open basement door. The staircase was impossibly familiar. Narrow wooden steps, edges worn down, the same that had led him to the jars, to the pit, to the Carter children. Only now, it would look fresh, sanded, clean, as though it had just been built. The jars at his feet rattled violently, teeth inside them clinking in frantic rhythm, as though warning him not to go up. But the alternative, staying here with them, was worse. He swallowed hard and gripped the railing. It was warm to the touch, pulsing faintly like a vein. He pulled his hand away, but the warmth lingered in his palm, as if the wood had branded him. Step by step, he climbed. The hum of the fluorescent lights below faded. The whispers dulled, replaced by something else. Voices. Normal voices. Muffled, distant, as though coming from above. At the top of the stairs, a door stood slightly ajar. Bright daylight spilled through the crack. Daylight. His heart leapt. Could it be real? Could he finally be outside? He pushed the door open. Sunlight hit his face. He squinted, blinking furiously, eyes adjusting after so much dark. He stumbled forward on a polished tile. The air smelled of antiseptic, not mildew. He was in a hospital. White walls stretched around him, bright with overhead lights. Nurses hurried past with clipboards, machines beeped faintly, and the air buzzed with fluorescent hum. His knees nearly gave out. He wasn't in the house anymore. He wasn't in the field. He was safe. Sir, a nurse approached, eyes wide with concern. Are you all right? You can't be down here. That wing is closed. Michael opened his mouth, but his voice cracked. It felt raw, used up. I don't know how I got here, he rasped. The nurse frowned, studying him. Your hand. He glanced down. The brass key was still clutched in his fist, blood trickling down his knuckles where it had burned into his skin. Let's get you upstairs, the nurse said gently. She guided him down the hall. What's your name? The question froze him. Every nerve screamed not to answer, but his lips moved anyway. Michael, he whispered. The hallway lights flickered. Machines beeped erratically. Somewhere behind the walls, faint at first but growing louder, came the grinding of teeth. The nurse stopped walking. Her head tilted, too sharp, too unnatural. When she looked back at him, her mouth split into a wide grin. Her teeth rattled like glass inside a jar. We know. Michael stumbled back, heart hammering, but the hospital was already changing. The white walls peeled, curling like dead wallpaper. The floor buckled, tile warping into rotted wood. The sterile scent of antiseptic twisted back into the iron stink of blood and mildew. He turned. The nurses, the patients, everyone in the ward stood still, motionless. Their mouths opened wide, spilling teeth onto the floor. The sound was deafening, thousands of teeth clattering across wood. The hospital dissolved around him, and there it was again. 1467 Willow Street. Waiting, its windows glowing faint green. Michael collapsed against the wall, sobbing. There was no escape. The house had never let him go. The hospital, the sunlight, just another room inside her endless body. And the whisper came again, so close it felt as though it rose from his own throat. Downstairs is waiting. Downstairs is waiting. Michael pressed his back against the rotting wall of the house, his lungs tearing with each breath. His fingernails dug into the brass key, still fused to his palm. The grooves burned so deep it felt like it had grown into his flesh. He looked around the ruined living room, the same place where it had all begun. The peeling wallpaper, the sagging couch, the black windows staring like eyes. There was no hospital, no field, no sunlight. There was only the house. The whispers came again, rising from the walls, from the floorboards, from the ceiling above him. Dozens, hundreds of voices, children, men, women, all chanting the same words in a single rhythm. Downstairs, downstairs, downstairs. The floorboards shifted beneath him, bulging upward like ribs, expanding in a breath. He staggered, gripping the wall. His own name crawled across the wallpaper, letters appearing one by one, written in dripping red. Michael Harris, taken. He shook his head violently. No, I won't. You can't have me. His voice cracked, but it only seemed to make the house tremble with delight. The front door swung open. Beyond it, there was no street, no sky. Only the ribbed staircase of bone and flesh, glowing faintly green, leading downward into the pit of teeth. The Carter children stood in the doorway, hands outstretched, smiles splitting their faces unnaturally wide. Behind them, Mrs. Carter's form towered, her mouth stretching open until it split her cheeks, teeth clicking in hungry applause. Downstairs is waiting, they whispered in unison. Michael raised the key one last time, his arm shaking. He thought of smashing it against the wall, of jamming it into his chest, of doing anything to end the nightmare. But deep down, he knew the truth. The key had never belonged to him. It belonged to the house. His grip loosened. The key slid from his hand and struck the floor with a sound louder than thunder. The house roared, every window rattling, every wall shaking. The front door yawned wider, the stairwell glowing brighter, the grinding of teeth rising from below like the roar of a beast. The children pulled him forward. His body resisted, but his legs moved on their own. Step by step, he crossed the threshold. The air grew colder. The whispers rose in triumph. He descended the staircase, the door closing behind him with a heavy finality. The last thing he saw before the dark swallowed him was the house itself, shuddering in satisfaction, its windows glowing like eyes, its timbers groaning like laughter. And the last thing he heard, echoing through the pit below, was the voice of the house itself. Welcome home, Michael Harris. You are ours now. The door sealed. No one ever saw him again. In 1467, Willow Street still waits.